Hi, I'm Aarti Shah, Executive Editor for Provoke Media. Before we launch into today's episode, there's a few questions that I want folks to chew on. And that's, what does self-care mean to you? And how has this global pandemic changed what that means? Do you consider self-care to be part of healthcare? And these are, I think, such interesting questions because the concept of self-care is so individualistic and also so universal. And this is why we're kicking off a series today to explore more closely how self-care connects to healthcare and how we as communicators can help simplify sort of the science of the communication behind this. We're launching the series in partnership with Coyne PR. Today's episode looks specifically at one area that's dominated the self-care conversation for the last 18 months, and that's skincare. To talk about this, we have two fantastic guests. I think most of you are familiar with the hugely popular skincare line, CeraVe. So we have Caitlin King, who's Assistant Vice President of Marketing at CeraVe. And we also have Lisa Wolleon, who is EVP at Coyne PR. Welcome, Caitlin and Lisa.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'm so excited about this because, skincare obviously was booming before the pandemic, and it sort of morphed, right? As people shifted from focusing on how they looked for in-person socializing to to looking at how they looked on digital platforms. So Caitlin, can you tell us a little bit about what this journey's been like at CeraVe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this topic of self-care, and CeraVe really has been at the forefront of bringing health into skincare. Our brand was founded with dermatologists in 2005 to bring better solutions to people suffering from skin conditions with good for you, derm trusted, healthy ingredients. And so we've been the fastest growing skincare brand for quite some time, but we've seen a significant uptick in the past year as there's been a lot of new emerging skin concerns and a bigger focus on hygiene. And you see people really looking for products that are more therapeutic, endorsed by experts. And that's where CeraVe has been strong for quite some time. So it's been an incredible ride to be able to provide access to affordable, derm trusted products to consumers everywhere.
And Lisa, just kind of taking a step back as well, can you tell us a little bit about what you all have seen about how self-care has evolved, especially around skincare over the last 18 months?
Sure. So I think, there's a lot of research and data that's out there. 70% of consumers actually took more of an interest in self-care, and it only took a pandemic for them to be able to do that. But I think the great point is that as we are now, more than halfway through 2021, that number has remained. So people are very focused on self-care. And I think the beauty of it is that it is so personal. It can mean so many things to so many different people. And it really is just about making yourself better and healthier in your own eyes.
Right. And so let's look a little bit at sort of influencers and the role that they've played in reaching new consumers. And I'll start this by sharing a stat. I think I saw this on Glossy, and it was according to Tracker's State of the Influence Beauty Report, influencer posts about skincare increased by 39%, and audience engagement saw 164% spike from 2019 to 2020. The interest in skincare stood out even more given that most other beauty categories experienced a steep decline. Lisa, kind of building on what you're saying, can you tell us a little bit about what you saw industry-wide in the beauty sector, and also a little bit about sort of Coyne's thinking when you all are reaching out and kind of vetting influencers?
Sure. I think number one, authenticity is key, regardless of the sector. Certainly is the case for beauty. I think we've seen, and we probably all have experienced it firsthand ourselves, there was a lot more time to just be online and be on social channels. So consumers really did start to, dig into content in a little bit of a different way and more frequently than they had previously.
Right. And Caitlin, can you give us, maybe an example of an influencer campaign from CeraVe that you thought really worked over the last 18 months?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two examples of how influencer has really impacted the brand, but also how it's enabled us to amplify these trusted people's messages to empower consumers and their followers to make better skincare choices. So one, I think just the availability of derms on social platforms overall has really grown in the past year or so, and having consumers the ability to be able to have digestible sound bites of skincare education through platforms like TikTok has just been something that I'm so excited for younger generations to be armed with a lot of this knowledge that like I definitely didn't have growing up. So we've done partnerships with like Dr. Portella, Dr. Park to really bring some of this education in easy to understand ways to the consumer because it doesn't have to be complicated. And that's like the part of why CeraVe is such an effective product. It's these simple formulas that really work, and it's easy to identify like which product is right for you within the line. And the success that we've seen from people with their transformational experiences from using the product is something that really picks up and goes viral. You have like Reddit. We've been the number one most talked about skincare brand on Reddit for 2 years in a row, 2019 and 2020, for the most discussed beauty brand. And it's really because people have had all this success after going through years of trial and error. So something that's worked really well for us is leveraging these authentic users and amplifying their voice. And among some of them have been also like our partnership with Hiram, who's been an incredible long time brand advocate. And so to be able to partner with him to empower his followers and spread these learnings on how to appropriately care for your skin so that people can have that same transformational effect has been really powerful.
I think that's so interesting because it sounds like, there's almost like this two-pronged approach where you are on one hand working with dermatologists that are on social platforms, and then also working with, your regular skincare users in terms of like the types of content that you kind of develop with each of those, both of those groups. Can you shed a little bit of light into like, how you decide that, hey, this is the conversation for a dermatologist to have, or this is the conversation for a skincare influencer?
Yeah, we're really like the brand is built on authenticity and trust. And when we look for partnership opportunities, we want it to be really relevant to the influencer and the expert and like what works on their platform and what's relevant with their followers. So a lot of times it's co-created. What are concerns that they're seeing coming in from the people that are watching their stories? And then also tied to like what products they authentically use and actually endorse. But always trying to provide the content that's best suited for the people that are watching, as well as like just with derms, sometimes it's just general education. We know there's a lot of confusion within like the cleansing category, and so clearing up like different myths and misconceptions in that space too.
Right. So, we've used the word authenticity a lot, and there's another word that we hear a lot, and that's transparency. And beauty, like so many sectors, has seen this sort of sustained consumer emphasis on transparency. And I'm curious to hear from both of you in terms of, for skincare, where is that emphasis? Is it on ingredients? Is it on product efficacy? Is it on influencer relationship, or the supply chain, or social issues? Like, I know there's a lot of stuff. So like, what do your consumers care about when they're asking for transparency?
Yeah, I think when it comes to transparency, consumers want to be a part of the journey. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to know about the brand's mission and values and where ingredients are sourced and more of the backstory of it. And I think beauty is no different than categories like food, where we really started to see transparency come to life years and years ago. And I do think that from a transparency perspective, we need to be able to make sure that not only are they following us along the journey, but that we're also speaking to them in very actionable ways.
Yeah. Caitlin, is there anything you've noticed specifically around what consumers are really asking for at CeraVe around transparency?
Yeah, I think so for us, I know right now also it's hot in the industry and in the space, this idea of skinimalism. So really the right ingredients, products that are effective. And so CeraVe really lives in well to that space with really the best tried and true ingredients coupled with unique formulations to bring the benefit that they're looking for. I would say also what we're seeing from consumers is just owning like what you have out there and listening to the feedback and making change. So that's something that we're always constantly listening to our social channels, our call centers, and looking to address and stand up for what we need to with our consumer base.
Yeah. So this is sort of a good segue to look at our third buzzword for this conversation, and that's social purpose, right? And I think, purpose has, dominated so many of our conversations in this industry, right? For, I think, 4 or 5 years now, so much so that it's, I think consumers have become a little bit cynical to that phrase as it's morphed into a buzzword. And I think the best way to combat that is for brands to be really specific about what purpose looks like for them. And so maybe we can start this by talking, saying specifically, what does purpose look like at CeraVe?
Yeah, so CeraVe is a therapeutic skincare brand rooted in the medical community and founded with dermatologists. So we are committed to supporting healthcare professionals and bringing these medically endorsed therapeutic products to everyone. Our mission is therapeutic skincare for all. So it's no matter your skin tone, your age, your race, your ethnicity, having the products that help provide the solutions that consumers are looking for. And we're extremely committed to also supporting the nursing community. So this is a passion of ours and mine that we're working on building out on the brand. There's a survey from Untitled where 77% of nurses spend more time caring for others than themselves. And we know this is like especially critical in this past year. The amount of stress and pressure that the nursing community has been under. And so burnout rate is at its all-time high. And this is an urgent social need to help this workforce. And so we're dedicated to recognizing nurses, honoring them, and sharing their stories and helping to improve the quality of their life so that they can live their healthiest life and also continue to impact and provide care for all of Americans. We know they really are the backbone of healthcare in the country.
And just the feedback that we've received from nurses around the country has just been outstanding. Just how grateful they are that CeraVe as a brand has not only taken time to recognize them, but to really help them care for themselves too.
Wow. And, and actually that's a great point to, Lisa, just from your perspective, this is such a great case study and such a great example. What are the bigger trends around social purpose that are really resonating in the beauty, maybe specifically the skincare sector right now?
So I think we're seeing that consumers are pressuring brands to really understand what they stand for and what their mission is. And just saying it certainly is not enough. I think, there really needs to be action behind their words. And we're also seeing that, some brands that maybe have stated what their social purpose is, but have not followed through. Consumers are coming back and they're really looking at the impact. They want to know, the impact that's been made in different communities. So I would say, making sure that, there's action behind the words is definitely critical.
And Lisa, I'm curious because you have such a high level view. Do you feel like the pressure around purpose is higher for beauty brands? Is it less so, or is it about the same than other sectors or other consumer sectors?
I would say I think the pressure is the same, but I think we're seeing more beauty brands take action. One of the things we always tell our clients is to take a step back. You don't have to necessarily say something to everyone. I think it's, again, making sure that you are serving a purpose to the areas that your consumer cares about. Brand purpose is definitely center stage. To your point, it has really become the new buzzword, but you have to really be authentic to what your consumer cares about.
Right. And so, as we close this conversation, I want to sort of open it up for either of you to sort of, cover anything that I haven't asked about. And I'll even seed it with a question in terms of, as self-care, as this conversation evolves, where do you think this is going, right? I mean, do you think this was a momentary blip, as we were all managing things like burnout, or is self-care here to stay? And if so, how do you see this evolving as we move forward? I'm gonna seed that, but I'll open it up if there's anything either of you want to close on.
Sure. I mean, I definitely think self-care is here to stay. I think if there's one thing that we've learned through the pandemic, it's that, there is always time to take care of yourself. And I think self-care, will just continue to grow. Like I said, I think it's something different to each one of us. But I do think people have finally realized the importance of taking care of yourself, to benefit everyone around you as well.
Mm-hmm. Caitlin, any closing words from you?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely here to stay. I think, given the circumstances of some of the past things that's happened this year, it's unfortunate that like this is what it took to really take the time to put the emphasis and focus on yourself. But I don't see that going away. And so I think, more and more opportunity to continue to bring consumers the products that they're looking for to really care for themselves and have a better mental, physical, and healthy well-being.
Right. And well put. Well, we packed a lot of info in there in less than 20 minutes. So thank you, Lisa and Caitlin. And we will be back soon with another episode of the Provoke Media podcast and another episode of this particular series. Thank you, everyone, again.
Thank you.
Thank you.